sure you got that. And that's what I'm here for.
I guess I'm going to ask for public comment. There's a lot of us here. I certainly want to hear your views. We want to hear your views. And I'm not at this point going to put a time limit on you, but I would appreciate it if you could keep it as brief as possible. We'll start right in the front row. If there's any of you that have anything that you would like to discuss or present. Okay, Pat? I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Debbie Rolfs.
Oh, Debbie, okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We talked the other night.
Yes,
Yes,
we
I
did.
do have something I wanted to
Okay.
say, if that's okay. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, Article 2, 125.3201, regulation of land development and establishment of districts, provisions, uniformity of regulations, designations, limitations, sections 201.1 states that zoning ordinances are to promote health, safety, and welfare of citizens. The vast amount of evidence found on the internet points to the fact that Fairgrove Township officials did not show concern for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens it represents. These are some of the problems that wind turbines create. Broken turbine blades states the case for how important appropriate setbacks are in order to provide safety to the citizens who have not chosen or have chosen to sign wind energy leases. These broken blades are due to mechanical failure or lightning strikes. Metal fatigue has been documented in turbine towers. Blades have also broken off in high gusty winds and in low winds. One can readily see the potential for a real dangerous situation here. Ice buildup can occur on turbine blades in cold weather and in high humidity, which is similar to icing on airplane wings. Terry Medlasky, Department of Physics and Astronomy at Rutgers University, has calculated the potential distance of ice throws of up to 1/2 mile, and states setbacks may not be adequate. OSHA report, the United States Department of Labor, an ice blade object hitting a human in the head or chest carries a high risk of death. The American Wind Energy Association states pieces of falling ice from the blades vary in size from tiny to hundreds of pounds. Dr. Nina Pinpoint studied wind turbine syndrome. The symptoms include sleep problems, which make it hard to fall asleep and cause frequent awakening. Headaches increased in frequency and severity. Other symptoms include dizziness, unsteadiness, nausea, exhaustion, anxiety, irritability, depression, problems with concentration and learning, and tinnitus, which is a ringing in the ears. These are other concerns associated with wind turbines. The impact to the groundwater could be staggering. When one takes into consideration oil leaking from the wind turbines, the leaching of the rebar into the soil, the breakdown of the cement or the removal of the cement, and the possibility of stormwater runoff. These elements could cause contamination to other properties not signed up with the wind lease agreements. Other safety concerns are the monitoring and security of the wind turbine facilities. Other health issues associated with wind turbines are the noise or sound factor. The World Health Organization has stated that noise has health effects and can affect sleep and can affect well-being. The World Health Organization recommends night noise of no more than 30 decibels. Wind leases typically contain noise easements to protect the company from liability. 55 decibels is an outrageous noise level and certainly not in the best interest of the citizens of Fairgrove Township. Levels of 55 decibels affects the REM cycles and increases the time to fall asleep. Are you as township officials going to declare a moratorium on the zoning issue? And I have one other thing I'd like to state too. And that's the code of ethics for engineers. You really are supposed to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. I question whether that's being done. Thank you.
Brittany.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I'm going to start by saying I did a little study of wind leases, and to the best of my ability, the people on the township planning commission, the people that you appointed, Brian Pike appears to have a wind lease. Doug Shannon appears to have a wind lease. Dwayne Hickey appears to have a wind lease. Jeff Montauk appears to have a wind lease. I'm not sure about Carl, but I know Mike Day has a wind lease. We've got 6 people that have a vested interest in what they did. There's financial gain involved with that. Now, these people are farmers, and I have nothing against farmers. But I went to the census material, and the census material states that occupations in Fairgrove Township, percentages are for males. Farming, which is fish and land, make up 3.1% of this township. Yet you folks were able to find 6 or 7 people that were farmers out of that 3.1%. You didn't find any construction or maintenance workers who make up 23%. You didn't find any office workers who make up 15%. You didn't find any professionals that make up 18%, or any service employees that make up nearly 8%. You found 3.1% of your people, 6 of them, out of that 3.1%. That's not right. The common industries in our township are transportation. They make up 16%. Agricultural workers, including forestry, fishing, and hunting, make up 13%. Construction is 10%. Metal and metal products is 5%, or 7%. And public administration is 5%. You don't even have a woman on that. There's not one woman. They're all in the farming industry. Not all, but most of them. Now, when I look at the township board, I'm just, to the best of my ability, it says that when I look it up, Karen's got a wind lease, Mike Day's got a wind lease, and Dennis Hathaway has wind leases. You people are making decisions for everybody in this township, and you have a vested financial gain. Now, I don't even like to do this, but I called an attorney and talked to them, and it says, and this, I don't know how true it is, but it says, upon consultation with an attorney, a member of any government body cannot deliberate or vote on any matters in which they have a financial benefit. Has your attorney advised you about this?
No.
Okay. Did they advise you to recuse yourself?
Well, that's not true. I have advised the township on conflicts of interest. And I've advised them
Not my
specifically.
personal attorney, that was who I was talking
Yeah.
about.
I've advised the township on the conflict of interest
And do
issues.
you believe they have a conflict of interest?
Not at this stage.
Let's look at it from a different, would you, if this is legal, is it ethical? Is this an ethical board?
Yes.
No. No, it is not, and you know it isn't.
Well,
You can't
asked
have-
my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, you have that
I
right.
wasn't talking to you, I was talking to the board.
Okay.
You know, I think right now, you've already violated my civil rights.
I'm not sure how, but that's fine.
I also went, well, I'll stop right there, let some other people talk.
I had a question at the last meeting about the setbacks from the exclusion zones of the villages. I don't know if I ever got a clear answer on that. Does anyone know what that is? Are they gonna be able to put a turbine up with, right up to that quarter mile from the village limits? Or do they have to abide by a setback from, say, non-participating? How does that work? Anybody know?
They have to meet all of the criteria, whether it's an exclusion zone. If in fact it's on a participating parcel, they can put it right up next to that exclusion zone. That exclusion zone is a quarter mile from the village limit, so they can have a turbine within a quarter mile of the village on a participating parcel, provided it's far enough from houses and everything else.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. So that quarter mile from the village limit, a turbine could go up right on that line or close to it.
Yes. Anything else then?
I'm sorry, I'm with Akron PD.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed you over here.
Now, I'm going to just stay mute right now.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Kevin Martis. I'm the director of the Interstate Informed Citizens Coalition. I'm here this evening on behalf of interested citizens in Fairgrove Township.
Excuse me, you're gonna have to slow down. Who are you with?
I'll bring you my card.
Okay, I have your name, but that's as far as I was able to get.
Sure. I'm Kevin Martis.
I'm sorry, I'm not a fast
That's
writer.
okay. I'll talk slow.
M-A-R-T-U-S?
I-S.
I-S is K-E-V-O-N.
Yeah. I'm named after a nun.
Ah,
It's a long story.
we don't need to hear that.
Okay. We're a statewide renewable energy citizens watchdog group. I was also the former vice chairman of the Riga Township Planning Commission, and I helped create one of the state-recognized model ordinances for wind energy zoning. And I got to say that when I look at your ordinance here, it's sorely deficient. In my experience, there are only two types of wind energy zoning ordinances possible. One type of ordinance is the one that you guys have before you tonight, and that's one in which you award to an out-of-state developer free access to non-participating parcels for the purpose of mitigating sound, noise, safety, and shadow flicker issues without compensation. Riga's ordinance took a different tack. We wrote an ordinance in Riga that has large setbacks to non-participating parcels, 4 times the height. But that was waivable if that non-participating parcel owner would negotiate agreeable terms with the developer. That then placed the responsibility for making this project palatable to all the people in your township on their shoulders. But what these wind developers are doing, and regularly do across the country, is ask boards like yours to grant them free access to non-participating parcel owners in exchange for nothing. Particularly curious is the very small setbacks you have to non-participating property lines. Both Vestas and Nordex, very popular turbine companies in the state of Michigan, have published standards. That DVD that I passed out to you guys, by the way, is of NextEra's project in DeKalb, Illinois. And 40 people there, 40 households sued NextEra, and they ultimately reached some kind of financial resolution. But you'll see NextEra make similar claims in their developments everywhere, and you'll see what the reality of these folks was after the project was built. Ended up in litigation. My point is, you can write an ordinance that gives strong setbacks to non-participants and make these developers acquire the rights to inflict 55, 60 decibels of noise, because your ordinance gives them a 3-minute break every hour. They could put 80 or 90 decibels out if they wanted, without penalty. Make them acquire those rights by negotiating individually, one at a time, with your non-participants. 1,640 feet is what Vestas and Nordex recommend that their employees retreat to in the event of a fire or a brake failure. 1,640 feet. That's in their published documents. How in good faith Can you give them 600, 700, 800 feet of a non-participant's property to mitigate those effects within that 500 meter, 1,640 foot radius? I don't think anybody should be compelled to give their property for free to an out-of-state developer to mitigate those risks. That doesn't seem reasonable to me, and you have it within your power to write an ordinance that would require them to get consent and give compensation to everybody who's going to be affected by this. Particularly interesting is the fact that roughly 60% of the cost of these wind development projects that is a benefit to NextEra is funded by the taxpayers. There's an op-ed in there that I've sent out for national publication that talks about NextEra's tax benefits from this. They're doing quite well. They have 9,300 megawatts of wind installed across the country, and they're generating an awful lot of tax credits from it, even though they make a relatively trivial amount of energy. The turbines proposed in your area, in fact in the state of Michigan, they're big, they look impressive, but 70 turbines, you could replace that output with 2 small gas turbine generators that would fit inside your average dairy barn. They make trivial amounts of electricity. They just look really big. So I would suggest that the wind developers before you are asking you for free easements across your friends and neighbors' property lines so that they can continue to strip mine the taxpayer's wallet. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some new visitors. Do you have any comments?
Well, I'm Helene Weber, and I live in Guilford Township, and we have turbines out in our area. And, you know, at a lot of the presentations, we've been to them all. We've been told that there's no sound, there's no effects or anything, and I'm here to tell you it's not that way. We hear it all the time. Our grandson spent the night with us a couple Saturday nights ago, and they kept him awake. Well, I'm lucky my bedroom's on the other end of the house, and the windows are closed right now, but I'm sure it won't be the fact when it comes this summer. And if anybody's drove down 138 going towards Fairgrove, and when they're all spinning, the adverse effect it does have on your visual, very distracting.
I'd like to read one more thing if I could.
Okay.
I've looked at this complaint resolution in this ordinance. Let me read it. The applicant shall develop a process to resolve complaints from nearby residents concerning the construction or operation of the project. The process may use an independent mediator or arbitrator and shall include a time limit for acting on the complaint. We don't know what that time limit is. During construction, the applicant shall maintain and make available to nearby residents a telephone number where a project representative can be reached during normal business hours. A report of all complaints and resolutions to complaints shall be filed with the township on an annual basis. So if I have a complaint, they're going to tell me how they're going to settle it. That's like me running into your car and telling you how I'm going to fix it, and I have a year to do it. This is so weak. It gives nothing in the way for us to resolve our resolutions. You gotta look at things like this. A year. You're gonna hear about it a year later unless people come storming to your doors. I just can't believe how we got this far. I just can't believe it. I have a question for John. John, how have you not had an effect on my civil rights? When you have these people that are getting financial benefit from this, that this committee appointed, when they don't represent the whole township, they represent 3.1%, how can you say that my civil rights haven't been violated? Maybe you have a good, strong argument, I don't know, but I don't see it.
I'm not sure what civil right you're referring to. Your right to worship, your freedom of speech, your right of assembly, your right to petition for redress of grievances, your right to vote, your right to not be discriminated against based on age, sex, marital status, religion, ethnic background. What civil right is being violated?
Due process.
You were given an opportunity to attend the hearings and to address the township board at each of those hearings and to address the planning commission.
Have you been heard?
Yes, you have been heard. People don't agree with you, but you've been heard. And what you're saying is,
People don't, or the board does.
what you're saying is that since the planning commission has made recommendations that you disagree with, that they are ignoring your civil rights, and that's not true.
I think the whole deal is the conflict of interest here.
But the
If you're
conflict,
getting,
I'm sorry.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
If you're getting money and getting monetary value, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna have one in my own backyard, which I don't want. And my feeling is if you want them, stick them in your own backyard, but that's not the point I wanna make. You're violating me by not looking out for everyone. Your job as a township official is to look out for the health, welfare, and safety of all the citizens. Not 3.1% that are gonna benefit monetarily, but everyone. There are health issues. You haven't studied it long enough to be aware of all the health issues involved.
I will tell you the same thing I have said for the last year and a half. You quote the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act.
Yes, I
The
did.
Michigan Zoning Enabling Act says a township cannot adopt regulations that have the effect of totally prohibiting a lawful use of land in the presence of a demonstrated need. And if a township does so, that ordinance will be struck down in court. And therefore, it is incumbent on the township, because turbines are lawful. Okay? There's nothing unlawful about a turbine, unlike a medical marijuana clinic or a house of prostitution or other types of drug houses that are unlawful uses. So turbines are lawful. And the Michigan legislature decreed in 2008 that they were needed in Michigan to fulfill a 10% renewable energy portfolio by 2015. And the Wind Energy Resource Board identified this region as the primary location for the development of wind turbines, and therefore, since they're lawful and determined to be needed, the township cannot implement legislation that would have the effect of totally prohibiting them.
But you're willing to prohibit 97% of the rest of us out here, you know, and
I'm
you know.
simply telling you what the law says.
Well, I think you can always read things into laws the way you want them to read and to make them look good. You know what, as an attorney, I think you can make it look however you want it to look.
If I thought we could legally prohibit them, I would give that advice.
That's been my position all along. I personally don't want them here. I don't like them.
Thank you.
But I have to look out for everybody's interest.
But basically, you're looking out for 3.1%. You're looking out for the leaseholders. You're not looking out for the rest of us.
We're trying to follow the law.
You want to know what they operate at 25, what is it, 20 to 30% efficiency? And you're telling me that is...
You're preaching to the choir here. I don't think wind turbines are a good idea. I'll be the first to admit that. I think there's lots of ways that we can make energy more efficiently than with wind turbines. That being said, the law in Michigan is that we have to have 10% renewable energy by the end of 2015.
Who was mandated?
Pardon me?
Who was mandated to get 10%?
Utility commission.
Yeah, the utility companies. Townships weren't mandated.
But how are the utility companies to achieve those standards?
Hydro, biomass, there's a lot of ways to comply without wind.
Oh, sure there is. I don't disagree with you.
So-
However, of those various options, and from what I understand, Ms. Rolfe, you're absolutely right that these are extremely inefficient means of producing energy. On the best day, the numbers I've heard are 40% efficiency from wind.
Well, that's
On
a
the best
pretty
day,
high number.
compared to coal or gas that maybe is 90% efficient. However, biomass might be 5% efficient. Solar, maybe 12 to 15%. Of the alternative energy sources, wind is the most efficient for the cost invested. And we can't say, okay, we're going to allow you to build solar facilities, but you can't build wind facilities, because it's a violation of state law. And when you suggest that I'm reading into it a conclusion that I want to reach, that conclusion is based on research that I've performed over the last 12 months, reading the cases in Michigan and reading the federal cases pertaining to the regulation of land use by townships and other municipalities. And steered in part by litigation that occurred down in Frankenmuth, when they tried to utilize a zoning ordinance to prohibit a use of land that the locals decided they didn't want.
Didn't you also use this argument in Merritt Township?
Yes.
And told them that there was a lawsuit which ended up not being true?
I was told there was going to be a lawsuit filed, and then because of the time constraints, I believe they opted to go into Guilford with the renewed turbines. And there still is a 3-year limitation period that is, you know, the clock's still ticking, so I don't.
Have you kind of scared some of these townships into doing some
I
of this
believe
stuff?
I
guess
probably
that's-
have.
Well,
I
then-
believe I
then I'm-
probably have by telling them what the financial consequences would be, such as occurred in Frankenmuth when they were hit with a $3.5 million judgment after it was determined that their zoning ordinance was unconstitutional.
I haven't heard that one, but,
Yeah.
you know, obviously you're reading things differently than I do, but
Yes, ma'am.
whatever.
Quentin, to address one of your concerns about having a, we'll call it a loaded planning commission. Every one of those planning commission members has been on that planning commission for way, way longer than this ever even occurred. This was even imaginable to everyone, to anyone. This isn't that we loaded it up with a bunch of farmers so they could get their way. They have been on this planning commission for, I would venture to guess, 10 years.
Oh, 15 years, some of them have been on for 15 years.
And I went around, I tried to get other people. Carl is in construction. You said we didn't have any. Bruce Turner is in construction. You said that we didn't have any.
He didn't say all of them.
No, he said that
6.
the construction industry was not represented. That was one of the industries that he quoted. I will be the first
Carl
to
was
admit
the
that we didn't have a
inspector.
woman on it, and we are trying to rectify that right now. We got 3 alternates, which was what we could do at this point, and they were all women.
And
We
none of them were
recognized that at one of these meetings that we had, that there weren't any women on there. And so we are trying to address that as we speak.
And none of them are farm women.
And we
It appears
specifically.
from the outside,
Yep,
it appears
yep.
from the outside.
And that's
that
why
you're
I'm
trying to
addressing
unlock the
that.
barn and get a couple new horses in.
But
No.
that's what I'm
And
trying to
the
say,
other
is that they
reason
were
is-
on there long before this was
I'm not aware
ever
of
an
that.
issue.
And I specifically told the board that we needed to look for some alternate members, because if and when a specific project is presented to the planning commission for approval, that a potential conflict of interest could arise, which would require one or more members of the planning commission to have to disqualify themselves from any vote. And at that point in time, we would need to have alternate members available to step in and serve on the planning commission, and that's what we've done. We do not have a